Now, campaigners from the Republic Group staged a protest at the gates of Buckingham Palace today, hanging a polling station sign across the gates as they demand an elected head of state. It's clear now that Republicans feel empowered by Prince Harry's vicious attacks on the monarchy, with the group vowing to stage further stunts in the run-up to May's coronation. However, it may be that King Charles's coronation is spoilt by those closer to home, with no firm answers from the palace on whether the Sussexes will be allowed to attend the national celebration following bombshell accusations against the monarchy. The palace's dignified silence now has media tongues wagging with speculation as to whether or not the couple, or perhaps a solo Prince Harry, will choose to or even be allowed to attend the celebrations. Well, joining me now is the esteemed royal biographer, author of Revenge, Meghan, Harry and the War Between the Windsors, Tom Bower. So, Tom, that war continues, of course, but there's still no answers as to whether the palace is going to take an aggressive stance or continue to appease the Sussexes.
Well, I think it's even worse than that. Good evening, Dan. I think it's even worse than that because I think King Charles is showing the very weakness that I always feared. Because I think the British public want a line drawn under this whole saga. They want these dangerous people from Montecito to be silenced. And it's not only the Sussexes which are jeopardizing the coronation, it's Prince Andrew as well now, who seeks to resuscitate his reputation. And I think King Charles is absolutely bombarded by the problems of his family, and he needs to draw a line and just show that he's not going to allow these two, Harry and Andrew, to undermine the coronation, and needs to say quite firmly that Harry and Meghan are not invited to the wedding. That will be very popular in Britain, and that he disapproves of what Harry has done.
Whereas, Tom, it seems like he's trying to take a more middle ground approach, which is invite Harry and Meghan and Prince Andrew to the coronation, but ban them from the balcony appearance, which will be for working members of the royal family. You clearly don't think that's enough.
Well, what I fear, Dan, is that if either of them come, all the focus will be on them rather than on the coronation and the importance of the monarchy and the unification of Great Britain. And he needs to get rid of them now. He should stop Andrew's campaign to rehabilitate himself dead, and he should tell Harry and Meghan they are not invited. What is really interesting is that over the last couple of days, clearly the Meghan and Harry publicity machine is getting agitated that we're not talking enough about them, that somehow their onslaught has not really scored the points they'd hoped here. And that, first of all, is the article in today's Telegraph that somehow Meghan has decided to remain silent because she has nothing to do with Harry's book, which is patently ridiculous. And this interview in Vanity Fair with the director and producer of the Netflix series, Liz Garbus, that somehow because the palace decided not to respond to their request.
Well, indeed. So Tom, let's come to both of them separately, because I'm absolutely fascinated to know what you think about this briefing to the Daily Telegraph. Let me just put up on screen the quote that was briefed to the newspaper, because it was very, very telling to me. So they said, is this the way she, as in Meghan, would have approached things? Possibly not, but she will always back him and would never have got involved in promoting such a personal project. This was about his own life, his own journey and his own perspectives. And Tom, my reading of that is that was a deliberate briefing on behalf of Meghan herself, and for the first time, throwing her husband under the bus. So it felt significant to me because, of course, this is the Daily Telegraph, one of the few newspapers in the UK, Tom, that the Sussexes do have a working relationship with, and they haven't denied that briefing.
British author and investigative journalist Tom Bower just dropped a scathing take on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, calling them dangerous people living in Montecito. And he's not talking about danger in the tabloid sense. He means politically, socially, culturally. Bower has spent years dissecting elite power players, and he's not one to exaggerate. So when he uses a word like dangerous, you better believe he's thought it through. So what exactly is dangerous about them? According to Bauer, it's their constant narrative of victimhood, combined with their use of media to shape a story that alienates institutions, discredits critics, and paints themselves as martyrs in a world that supposedly mistreats them at every turn. Add to those lawsuits, NDAs, and their close circle of image consultants. It's not hard to see how that level of message control could be used to rewrite history and shut down dissent. Montecito was supposed to be their sanctuary, but now it's being painted as their propaganda base. That's the claim. Bauer says they're not just living quietly, they're plotting the next documentary, podcast, or bombshell interview. And every time they speak, someone else, whether it's the royal family or their former friends, takes a hit. It's not about truth, it's about control. That's the danger, according to Bauer, rewriting the rules for fame, royalty, and influence. Here's what's crazy. Bauer might not be alone anymore. Public opinion is shifting. Spotify dropped them. Netflix is allegedly frustrated. Even A-listers are backing off. And you can feel the chill in Montecito.
Well, I think what they're doing myself is that Meghan is setting up her own stall to fire the next salvo. She wanted, and I think their publicist wanted, this to be Harry's story. But of course it wasn't. There was so much in the book that came from her mouth and her ideas, whether it is about that she never Googled Harry before she met him, and the whole description of what happened at the Portland hospital when Archie was born, both are completely fictitious. I don't believe for a moment that Meghan wasn't part of the whole campaign, and I think what they're really doing is saving her for the next stage. They don't want to sort of...
So you think they're still totally unified, Harry and Meghan?
Yeah, I do.
And then, as you mentioned, the director of the Netflix reality show that the Sussexes did, Liz Garbus, has lashed out at Buckingham Palace, accusing them of trying to discredit her project. So she disputes claims from the palace that her team did not reach out to the royal family for comment and insisted they were approached. The palace, meanwhile, maintained they were only ever contacted by a third-party production company. But what was this about, Tom? Because, as you say, it's a continuation of the PR war, isn't it?
Well, it's also, I suppose, that producer Garbus and director is horrified that she's no longer being discussed. I mean, no doubt the Netflix series was a great success in viewer numbers, a huge success according to Netflix. But actually, when she says that her series was critical thinking, that is ridiculous. There was no criticism and there was no thinking. It was just sheer propaganda, which Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propagandist, would look at with awe. I mean, just take the racism thing. She says that she held up the monarchy to criticism. She didn't. All she did was she trashed it with two patsies who absolutely had no thought whatsoever of the truth. They just spewed out their venom and didn't consider this very, very hilarious contradiction that Harry, in his own interviews to promote his book, said that the royal family is not racist. Not only that, he said that he and Meghan love Lady Susan Hussey, this arch-villain of racism. So she is in a ridiculous position where she made racism at the center of her Netflix series, but Harry now says that Meghan never accused the royal family of racism and they love Hussey. So, I think at the moment what's happening is they don't know how to get their ducks in a row. I think Meghan and Harry, having fired this astonishing fusillade, bombardment of the royal family, are really wondering what the next step is. And the next step surely must be that the royal family, and particularly Prince William and Prince and King Charles, make clear that Harry has now excluded himself from the family. That would be the best way to draw a line under this whole saga.
I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Fascinating analysis, as ever, from the country's top royal biographer and author of Revenge, Meghan, Harry and the War Between the Windsors, Tom Bauer.
The Sussex brand used to mean inspiration and rebellion. Now, it's being labelled as toxic, manipulative, and dangerous. Look, Tom Bauer has his critics, but he's not pulling this out of thin air. And when you connect the dots, The media control, the messaging, the paranoia, the lawsuits. It starts to feel less like a fairy tale and more like a media war zone. So the question is, are Harry and Meghan misunderstood revolutionaries? Or are they exactly what Bauer says, dangerous influencers with a royal vendetta? That's it for this one, folks. If you think Tom Bauer's right or totally off base, drop your take in the comments. Hit that like button if you're done with the royal drama. And don't forget to subscribe for more truth bombs and reaction deep dives.